It was close to midnight when I met him, the stranger in the gray coat. The night was unusually silent, the kind of silence that makes your heartbeat sound louder than usual. The city lights shimmered in puddles from an earlier rain, and the air carried that cold metallic smell of wet asphalt. I had missed my last bus home and stood alone beneath a flickering streetlight, scrolling through my phone, praying the battery wouldn't die before I ordered a ride. Welcome to Voices of Aunt Clara, where every story carries a mystery, a lesson, and a heartbeat. If you love stories filled with suspense, emotion, and life-changing twists, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and tap the bell icon so you never miss a new story. Now let's begin. That's when I noticed him, standing across the road under the shadow of an old tree. He wasn't moving, just watching. At first, I thought he was just another late-night wanderer, someone waiting for a taxi. But there was something strange about the way he stood, motionless like a statue. His face was partly hidden by the dim light, but I could see the faint glint of his eyes, fixed right at me. I shifted uncomfortably, pretending to check my phone again, but deep down, a chill ran through me. Maybe it was my imagination. Maybe the night was just playing tricks. I turned around to walk away, but the echo of footsteps followed, slow, deliberate, one step for every two of mine. When I finally turned back, he was closer. "Long night, isn't it?" he said, his voice calm, deep, and strangely familiar. His tone wasn't threatening. If anything, it was almost gentle. Still, I felt uneasy. "Yeah, I missed my bus," I replied quickly, hoping he'd walk on. But he didn't. He just nodded slowly and said something that froze my blood. "You shouldn't be out this late. Not after what happened last year." My body stiffened. What did he mean? No one knew about last year. No one was supposed to. I stared at him, heart pounding. "I don't know what you're talking about," I said, forcing a shaky laugh. He smiled faintly, not unkindly. "Don't worry," he whispered. "I remember everything for you." He started walking, and without knowing why, I followed. The street was eerily empty, the sound of his shoes echoing off the buildings like a heartbeat. I told myself I was being foolish, that I should just leave, go home, forget this man. But something inside me needed to know who he was. We reached an old bench under a street lamp. He sat down and patted the space beside him. "I used to wait here every night," he said softly, staring at the road ahead. "For what?" I asked. "For forgiveness," he replied. I hesitated but sat down, keeping a cautious distance. He reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small, weathered photograph. When he handed it to me, I felt my stomach twist. It was a picture of me, 3 years younger, smiling beside a silver car. The same car that had crashed on Riverbend Road, the accident I'd tried so hard to erase from my memory. I couldn't breathe. "Where did you get this?" I demanded. He didn't answer. He just looked at me with eyes full of quiet sorrow. "You remember that night, don't you?" The air around us seemed to grow colder. I swallowed hard. "That was an accident," I stammered. "It wasn't my fault. I didn't see him." He nodded slowly. "I know. But you ran." My throat tightened. No one knew that. No one. I had driven away before the police arrived. I told everyone I wasn't near the scene that night. I'd lived with that lie ever since, and every day it ate away at me. "Who are you?" I whispered. He stood up slowly and looked down at his gloved hand. When he pulled the glove off, I saw it, a deep scar across his wrist. The same scar I'd glimpsed in the headlights that night, on the man I thought I'd killed. My knees went weak. "That's not possible," I said. You died." He smiled faintly. Maybe not. Sometimes guilt brings back what the world buries." We stood there in silence as the wind rustled through the trees. "Why are you here?" I asked finally, my voice trembling. He turned toward me. "To give you a choice," he said. "You can keep running from the past, or face it and set things right." He reached into his pocket and handed me a small piece of paper. An address. A name written neatly in faded ink. "What is this?" I asked. "Someone who's been waiting for answers," he said. "Someone who deserves the truth." Before I could ask anything more, he began to walk away. "Wait!" I shouted, but when I blinked he was gone. Just like that, vanished into the night, as if he'd never been there. All that remained was the photograph, damp from the drizzle that had started again. I turned it over. On the back, written in tiny handwriting, were 3 words: "Make it right." The next morning I drove to the address on the paper. It was a small house on the edge of town, surrounded by a garden of wildflowers. An elderly woman opened the door. Her eyes were kind but weary, as though life had taken too much from her. "Can I help you?" she asked. I hesitated, the words catching in my throat. I knew your son," I said finally. Her expression softened. "You did? Come in, dear." The house was quiet, filled with photographs and old books. On the mantel sat a picture of a young man, the same face that had haunted my dreams for years. We sat together and I told her everything. Every detail. Every mistake. Every lie. Tears streamed down her face, but she didn't look angry. When I finished, she reached for my hand and held it tightly. "You're not a bad person," she said gently. "You were scared. And sometimes fear makes us do things we never thought we could. But telling the truth, that takes courage." For the first time in years I cried. Not from guilt but from relief. When I left her house, the morning sun was breaking through the clouds. It felt like the world had finally exhaled. That night, I slept for the first time in months without nightmares. But as I turned off the lamp, something caught my eye: the mirror beside my bed. In its reflection, standing just behind me, was the man in the gray coat. He wasn't smiling this time. He just looked at me, his eyes soft, almost proud. "Thank you," he whispered. And then he was gone. I sat frozen, the silence deafening. My heart was racing, but there was no fear, only peace. I looked down at the photo on my nightstand. It was dry now, the image faded, but on the back, new words had appeared beneath the original message. "You did the right thing." The next morning I went back to Maple Street where I'd first met him. The streetlights still flickered, and the old bench was still there. But beneath the tree there was something new. A small memorial stone with a name engraved on it. "In loving memory of Daniel Reed, 1988 to 2020. I stood there for a long time, staring at the name, realizing it was the man I'd hit that night. He had died. Then who had I spoken to? Maybe it didn't matter. Maybe it was something beyond what I could understand. But one thing I knew for certain: he had come back not to haunt me, but to save me. As I walked away, I whispered a quiet thank you into the wind. And for the first time in years, the silence felt warm. Sometimes the ghosts we see aren't there to scare us. They're there to remind us of the person we still have time to become.